Wyoming Territory, 1885. The train had been rolling west for 4 hours when the exhausted young woman across from Jasper Caldwell finally slipped asleep against his shoulder, and then, without waking, whispered the one sentence that would change both their lives. "I dreamed I was marrying you." Jasper froze. He was 34, a horsebreaker with a weathered coat, a single trunk, and a habit of leaving every town before anyone could ask him to stay. He had boarded in Omaha with a ranch job waiting near Cheyenne, and no expectation that a stranger would matter to him. Yet there she was, sleeping peacefully against him as the train rocked through the Wyoming country. He could have gently moved her, but something in her tired face made him stay still. Nearly 3 nights without proper sleep had left her exhausted. When she finally woke an hour later, she realized where she was and turned crimson. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "I did not mean to fall asleep on you." "No harm done," Jasper replied. He kept her dream to himself. A little later, she introduced herself as Emmeline Caro. Her voice was refined, but there was fear underneath it. Jasper asked what awaited her in Cheyenne. After a long silence, she answered, "A wedding." Then she explained that it was her own wedding, to a man she had never met. Her father had died 2 years earlier after borrowing heavily to save the family farm. The debt had grown beyond what her mother and younger sister could manage. Emmeline's aunt had arranged a marriage with Cornelius Ashgrove, a wealthy landowner who promised to clear the debt in return for a wife to manage his household and eventually bear his children. "I know nothing about him," Emmeline admitted. "Only that he has money and my family needs it." Jasper studied the passing fields. "And what do you want?" She looked almost startled by the question. "I honestly don't know anymore." At the evening depot, passengers stopped for supper. Jasper and Emmeline found themselves sharing a table. The food was plain, but for the first time she laughed when Jasper questioned whether the stew deserved to be called beef. That small laugh changed the air between them. She asked him to tell her something true. Jasper confessed that he had once loved a woman in Kansas who died from fever within a week. Since then, he had kept moving, pretending the road was freedom, when perhaps it was only a way to outrun grief. Emmeline quietly admitted her own fear, marrying a stranger and spending her entire life wondering what it would have felt like to choose someone because her heart wanted him. "If you could choose freely," Jasper asked, what would you choose?" Emmeline looked at him for a long moment. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I think I want to find out." And neither of them realized that before the train reached Cheyenne, the answer might already be sitting beside her. By the second day, Jasper Caldwell and Emmeline Caro had stopped pretending their conversations were merely a way to pass the miles. They spoke about books, horses, family, and the strange loneliness of belonging nowhere. Jasper told her that a man could travel for years and still carry the same sorrow in his saddlebag. Emmeline told him that a woman could live under one roof all her life and still feel like a stranger inside it. Their growing closeness frightened them both because Cheyenne was waiting at the end of the tracks. A mechanical problem delayed the train at a lonely depot, and Jasper and Emmeline walked together along the platform. Emmeline finally asked why he had been thinking about staying instead of leaving. Jasper hesitated, then said, "Because a woman fell asleep on my shoulder and said something that made me wonder whether the road has been giving me the wrong answers." Emmeline stopped walking. Her cheeks warmed. "You heard me?" "Every word. I don't even remember the dream." "Maybe you don't need to remember every part of a dream to understand why it came." She looked toward the tracks. "I have a wedding waiting for me." "I know," Jasper said. "I'm not asking you to break a promise to a man you haven't met. I'm only asking you not to forget that your own heart deserves a voice." That evening, the train finally reached Cheyenne. Cornelius Ashgrove was waiting on the platform, dressed in an expensive coat, with a driver beside him. He greeted Emmeline not with warmth, but with the careful inspection of a businessman receiving property. "You are late," he said. The delay was mechanical, she answered. Cornelius accepted the explanation and immediately began discussing arrangements. Jasper watched from a distance as Emmeline followed him toward the carriage. Before she climbed inside, she looked back. Their eyes met for several seconds, neither willing to say goodbye. Jasper rode to the ranch where he had accepted work, but he could not stop thinking about her. Emmeline soon discovered that Ashgrove's house was elegant, but cold. At supper, Cornelius made the arrangement perfectly clear. He wanted a capable wife, a managed household, and heirs. She needed her family's debt paid. Affection, he implied, was irrelevant. That night, Emmeline lay awake remembering Jasper's kindness. He had never demanded anything from her. He had simply listened. The next morning, she saw a notice about Wyoming women's voting rights posted outside the county office. She stared at it for a long time. For 16 years, women in the territory had been allowed a voice at the ballot box, yet she had been preparing to surrender her voice over the most important decision of her own life. Her aunt arrived to help with the wedding. Seeing Emmeline's troubled face, she admitted that she had chosen security because she feared the family would lose everything. "I never meant to make you unhappy," her aunt said. Emmeline answered, "But must security and happiness always be enemies?" Her aunt had no easy answer. That night, Emmeline finally made her choice. The wedding would not happen. Friday morning, Emmeline Caro walked into the small Cheyenne church alone and told the Reverend, "I want to cancel tomorrow's wedding." Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. She knew the decision could cost her family comfort, reputation, and certainty, yet for the first time the choice belonged entirely to her. Before the Reverend finished explaining what had to be done, the church door opened. Jasper Caldwell stood there, dusty from the road, his hat in his hand. He had ridden into Cheyenne without a perfect plan because he could no longer pretend that leaving was easier than speaking honestly. "I came to tell you something," he said. Emmeline smiled through nervous tears. "Then say it." Jasper admitted that he had spent years believing the safest life was one without attachments. He had lost someone he loved once, and afterward he had treated every new road as protection against another loss. But meeting Emmeline had made him realize that a life without risk could also become a life without real happiness. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like," he told her. "I don't know whether I can solve your family's troubles. I only know I would rather face the future beside you than spend another year pretending I don't want to." Emmeline answered softly, "I think that is the first honest thing I have ever been offered without a price attached." Cornelius received the canceled engagement more calmly than expected. "I suspected this would happen," he said. "You have looked like a woman attending her own funeral since you arrived." He agreed not to destroy the family over the broken arrangement, though the debt remained. Emmeline refused to replace one dependence with another. She returned home with her mother, sister, and aunt, and together they faced the accounts. They sold a poor section of the farm to a neighboring farmer, arranged a smaller loan, and divided the remaining work among themselves. Emmeline also began sewing for families in town. "We may lose some land," she told her mother, "but we don't have to lose ourselves." Her mother smiled. "Then we are already richer than we were." Through the summer, Jasper courted Emmeline slowly and respectfully. He visited when ranch work allowed and wrote letters between visits. He never pressured her to marry quickly. She wrote back about her sewing, her sister's garden, and the little moments that made their new life feel possible. Their love grew through patience rather than promises. Months later, Jasper brought Emmeline to a hill overlooking the ranch at sunset. "The first time you slept on my shoulder," he said with a grin, "you dreamed we were married." Emmeline laughed. "Perhaps my dreaming mind knew something before I did." Jasper took her hand. "And now?" She looked at the home below them, then at the man beside her. "Now I'm awake," she said, "and this time, I choose you." He kissed her gently as the Wyoming wind moved across the grass. The road had once taught Jasper to keep moving. Emmeline had once believed duty meant surrendering her own happiness. Together, they learned something different. Love was not a debt, a bargain, or a rescue. It was a choice made freely, with open eyes and two hearts willing to stay.